Chapter 14. The light of dawn began to appear in the sky. The sun's rays tinged the sandstone walls to a dull pink and clouded red. Dew was upon the late rose. Despite the blessings of a glorious summer day, the whole of Mossflower was doom-laden with an awful tension that threatened to burst upon the captives seated on the grass. Horde captains came stamping out of the abbey. They prodded the prisoners with cutlass points and slapped out with flat blades at the helpless defenders. "Come on, you lot! On your feet! Stand up straight, you mice! Step aside there! Make way for Clooney the Scourge!" Reluctantly, the Redwall contingent complied. They turned. All eyes were on the door of Great Hall. The silence was broken as the door slammed back upon its hinges. Clooney strode out. Behind him, bearing the Horde standard and a lighted torch, came Fangburn and Kilconey. The vicious Horde soldiers cheered wildly. Clooney was the picture of barbaric power, geared for war from his poison tail tip to the frightening battle helmet. He looked every inch the conqueror. Regally, he swept through the ranks of both sides, looking neither to right nor left. Mounting the dais which had been set up for his use, he swirled the sinister cloak about him and sat down in the abbot's chair. All that could be heard was the crackle of the torch and the unhappy whimper of one of the infant captives. He sat impassively, claws gripping the chair arms, visor lowered. Slowly lifting the visor, Clooney allowed his single eye to rove around. It came to rest on the Abbey leader. "You, Abbot Mouse, come here." With two rats flanking him, the Father Abbot stepped forward in a slow, dignified manner. Even clad in his nightwear, he radiated calm and fortitude. Clooney sat back, sneering openly. "Huh! So this is your leader, a little fat mouse in his nightshirt. What a fearsome warrior he looks. Well, what now, mouse? Are you going to go down on your knees and beg for your life, old one?" Abbot Mortimer stared calmly into Clooney's savage eye. "I will never bend my knee on my own behalf. However, if I thought I could save the life of one of my friends, I would gladly fall down on both knees. But I know you, Clooney, better than you know yourself. There is not a scrap of pity or mercy in your heart, only a burning desire for vengeance. Therefore, I will not kneel to one who is consumed by evil." Clooney sprang to his feet, trembling with rage. "Kneel to me, mouse! Kneel, or I will kill you!" he stormed. Angry growls and the rending of grass from beneath the net on the ground heralded Constance's awakening. She began to heave and push. The net started to work loose. She called out to Clooney in a gruff, insulting voice. "Hey, you scruffy, one-eyed vermin! Remove this net and face me alone. We'll see who ends up on their knees." At a signal from the warlord, a gang of rats leaped upon Constance and beat her back into unconsciousness with their weapons. They drove the securing stakes deeper around the net. Basil Stackhair kicked out at them. When he had driven the rats off, he faced Clooney boldly. "You, sir, are not fit to command any creature. You are a coward and an evil maniac. Even if my paws were not tied, I would think twice before soiling them upon the likes of you. Sir, you are beneath contempt. You rat!" A stinging blow from a weasel's club sent Basil limping and tripping to the ground. The weasel struck him again and again upon the legs. He doubled up in pain as the Horde jeered and laughed. Clooney pointed at the hare. "Remember your tricks behind the church. Before this day is done, you'll never run and dodge again." His eyes blazing with madness, Clooney flung his claws wide. "All of you, defenders of Redwall, listen to me! When I first came to the Abbey, I gave you a choice. Surrender or die. You chose to fight me. Me, Clooney the Scourge! I lost battles. I lost skirmishes. I lost soldiers. But I have won the war. You are the losers. Now you must pay with your lives! As the warlord spoke, something seemed to snap deep within the abbot. He rushed forward and tried to grasp Clooney. No, no, you dare not harm these creatures! He cried. It would be murder! Clooney grabbed the father abbot and threw him to the ground. Lashing the frail figure with his poison-barbed tail, he shouted, Who are you to tell me what to do? There is only one law, my word. There is none to stop me, not badgers, or hares, or otters, or mice. I will kill you all! Kill! 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 Suddenly, a thunderous voice was heard. Clooney the Scourge, I have come to settle with you! A gasp arose from the crowd. Clooney's tail fell from his grasp, as both victors and vanquished turned towards the abbey, whence the voice had issued. There, in the open doorway of Great Hall, stood the warrior mouse. It was as if he had stepped out of the tapestry upon the wall. On his arm was a burnished shield. At his waist was a sword belt of black leather and silver. From the scabbard at his side, he drew forth a mighty sword. Clooney's voice shook as he addressed the nightmare visitor. Who are you? The warrior stepped forward into the daylight. Sun rays glinted diamond-like off his sword. I am that is! Unable to take his eyes from the warrior, Clooney stumbled backwards. He cowered behind the abbot's chair, his mouth working convulsively. You are something out of my dreams. Go away! I'm not asleep! The warrior mouse strode out into the crowd. He pointed his blade at the quivering warlord. I am that is! Martin! Matthias! Call me what you will. It was long ago written that you and I would meet, rat. Seize him! Clooney screamed. Frogblood sprang forward, brandishing a spear. Before he could raise it, the ancient sword flashed in the warrior's grip and hewed him lifeless to the ground. I will slay any invader that moves, Matthias shouted. Clooney, this is between you and me. Your army will not interfere. Suddenly, the Joseph bell began tolling. Sparrow warriors appeared in swarms that almost obscured the sky above the abbey. They landed in droves around the parapet edges. The grounds came to life with teeming swarms of gorilla shrews, armed to the teeth with rapiers, cudgels, and slings. Matthias whirled the sword above his head as he roared out his battle cry. Redwall! Redwall! Strike for Redwall! The final conflict had begun. Shrews struck down the enemy guards as Sparrow Braves released the prisoners' bonds with short slashes of their sharp beaks. The freed defenders grabbed up anything that would serve as weapons. They hurled themselves upon the enemy, sparrows and shrews siding them against their larger adversaries. Rats, ferrets, weasels, and stoats fought with the ferocity born of desperation. Their very lives depended on the outcome. Clooney plucked the blazing torch from Kilconey's grasp. He flung it at the face of the oncoming warrior. Matthias deflected it with his shield in a cascade of sparks and went after the horde leader. To gain a brief respite, Clooney pushed Kilconey into Matthias. The ferret grappled vainly, but was cloven in two with one swift strike. Matthias stepped over the slain ferret, whirling his sword expertly as he pursued Clooney. Ignoring his unprotected back, Matthias failed to see Fangburn stealing up behind him. The rat raised his cutlass in both claws, but before he could strike, Constance had hurled the net over him. Fingburn struggled like a landed fish as the big badger picked up the net and swung it several times against the gatehouse wall. Dropping the lifeless thing, Constance plunged with a terrifying roar into a pack of weasels. The thick tail of the warlord flicked out venomously at Matthias's face. He covered swiftly with his shield as the poison metal barb clanged harmlessly off it. Clooney tried again, this time whipping the tail speedily at the young mouse's unprotected legs. Matthias leaped nimbly to one side and swung the sword in a flashing arc. Clooney roared with pain as it severed the tip off his tail. The bloodied stub lay on the grass with the barb still attached. Hurling the abbot's chair at his adversary, the rat seized an iron spike. Metal clashed on metal as the warrior mouse parried Clooney's thrusts. They battled across the green abbey lawns, right through the center of the maelstrom of warring creatures. Oblivious to the fighting around them, they sought to destroy each other, hacking, stabbing, lunging, and swinging in mortal combat. Meanwhile, teams of sparrow warriors were jointly lifting struggling rats and flying high to drop them into the middle of the abbey pond. Ferrets had cornered a band of shrews and were threatening to massacre them when a huge column of otters sprang to the rescue. Keeping heavy pebbles locked in their slings, they battered continuously at the ferrets. Besieged by fierce sparrows, rat sentries leapt in panic from the top of the ramparts. Those who stayed were dealt with by Jess Squirrel, who swung a heavy iron chain around like a deadly flail. Down below, Ambrose Sprike was rolling about like a whirling ball of needles. Silent Sam acted as his eyes, propelling him into each fresh bunch of rats with a long stick. Matthias and Clooney continued battling savagely. Iron smashed upon steel as Clooney called up reserves from his vast strength and cunning to defeat his opponent. Twice he had hurled clawfuls of soil at Matthias's eyes, but each time the shield rose swiftly and deflected them. The warrior mouse hacked away stoically. He was beginning to feel his paws numbed by the jarring blows of the hefty iron railing against the sword blade. Clooney, too, felt the vibrations each time the sword clinged upon his weapon. The pain shot right through him, down to the tip of his injured tail. Along the ramparts they fought, blinded by sweat, panting and blowing, neither asking nor giving quarter. Down the stairs and across the grass once more, they slashed and struck at each other, right up to the entrance of Great Hall. Clooney dodged behind the half-open abbey door and hit out at his attacker. Matthias's sword point lodged deep in the wood. Seizing his chance, the rat dodged nimbly into the open and battered madly at Matthias's upheld shield until he was forced to drop it. Clooney's iron spike drove cruelly into the mouse's unguarded paw. Matthias cried out and instinctively kicked the shield upwards at his adversary. It struck Clooney squarely under the chin, the sharp metal edge causing a long slash. As the rat reeled away, clutching at its throat, Matthias freed the sword from the door. Ignoring their wounds, they immediately clashed again, going at it, hammer and tongs. Clooney lashed out with his bleeding tail and tripped Matthias. As the warrior mouse lay upon the ground, the rat roared and stabbed downwards with the spiked railing. Matthias rolled to one side. The point sank deep into the earth. He struggled to his feet, striking out and scoring Clooney heavily down the side. But the long tail whipped out, lashing the warrior mouse several times across the face. Clooney staggered into the entrance to the bell tower, where Friar Hugo had been tolling the Joseph bell. At the sight of the rat warlord, he released the rope and scuttled underneath the stairs, where he hid trembling. Matthias came thundering in. Clooney dodged around him and slammed the door, locking them in together. If only he could get the mouse at close quarters and stop him from using the sword, Clooney thought. Then he could win with his superior strength. They locked in combat again. Clooney barred the railing across the sword blade. Pushing with both claws, he drove Matthias backwards. Now, he could see victory in sight. If only he could pin the warrior mouse against the wall, he would be able to throttle him with the edge of the railing. Clooney braced his feet and strained. He could feel the breath laboring raggedly within his chest. He must win! The voices had told him he would never again see the warrior after the sun set upon this day. The prophecy had to be fulfilled once and for all. Remorselessly, He used his greater strength to drive the young mouse backwards. They were only inches from the wall now. Matthias realized what Clooney was doing. He would be finished once he was pinned against the wall. There was only one thing to do. Matthias suddenly swerved aside and collapsed on his back. Kicking his legs out rigid, he sent Clooney crashing into the wall. Matthias leaped over Clooney and bounded up the spiral stairs into the darkness of the belfry. Clooney lay against the wall, panting heavily. He managed an evil, wheezing laugh. "There's no way out up there, mouse," he called. "I'm coming up after you. You're as good as dead now." Matthias didn't reply. He sat, exhausted up in the dark belfry, with his legs dangling over the stout timber bell axle. Down below, Clooney squatted against the wall, glad of the chance to take a breather. Beneath the dusty stairs, Friar Hugo sneezed. Laughing triumphantly, Clooney seized the little fat friar by his tail and dragged him from his hiding place. "Look, mouse," he called. "See, I've got your little fat friend. Ha! I won't have to climb those stairs after all. Throw the sword down, or I'll spike him like a lollipop." From his vantage point, Matthias looked down. Far below him on the floor, he could see Clooney holding the spike under Friar Hugo's chin. Clooney gave the point a light jab. Hugo gurgled unhappily. "You see, all it takes is a little harder push, and he's dead. Now throw down your sword and get down here yourself. Quick!" Matthias peered over the rim of the Joseph Bell. "All right, Rat. You win. But how do I know you'll keep your word? First, let the friar go. Then I promise, on my honor as a warrior, that I'll come down." Clooney grinned wickedly. There it was again. That stupid thing called honor. The code of the warrior. But it was not his code. He had one. "Get out of my sight, you sniveling little wretch!" he grated, thrusting Friar Hugo away from him. The frightened mouse dived back underneath the stairs. Clooney stood in the center of the room, his one eye straining to catch sight of Matthias in the belfry. Blood dripped from the dozen wounds the mouse warrior had inflicted upon him during the course of their battle. But now, he knew he had won. The voices had been right. He would soon see the last of the mouse warrior. "Come on down, mouse. Clooney the Scourge is waiting for you," he cried. Matthias stood up on the wooden beam. With one mighty blow from the blade of the ancient battle-scarred sword, he severed the rope holding the Joseph Bell. It appeared to hang in space for a second. Then it dropped like a massive stone. Clooney remained riveted to the spot, his eyes staring upwards. Before he had time to think, it was too late. Clang! The Joseph Bell tolled its last huge knell. The colossal weight of metal smashed Clooney the Scourge flat upon the stone floor of the bell tower. Wearily, Matthias the warrior descended the spiral stairs, sword in hand. He led the sobbing little friar out of his hiding place. Together, they stood and stared at the Joseph Bell where it lay, cracked clean through the center. From beneath it, there protruded a bloodied claw and a smashed tail. Matthias spoke. "I kept my promise to you, Clooney. I came down. Hush now, Friar Hugo. It's all over now. Wipe your eyes." Together, the friends opened the door and walked out into the sunlight of a summer morning. Redwall had won the final battle. The bodies of both armies lay scattered thick upon the grass and stones where they had fallen. Many were sparrows, shrews, and woodland defenders, but they were far outnumbered by the slain rats, ferrets, weasels, and stoats. Nowhere was there one of Clooney's infamous horde left alive. Constance ambled up, her big flanks heaving, covered in wounds. She pointed to the bell tower and uttered a single word. "Clooney, dead," Matthias replied. "Were all the horde slain? Did we take no prisoners at all?" The Badger shrugged wearily. "A lot of them tried to escape. We didn't really stop them. They managed to unbar the main gate and ran out into the road. There were a big ginger cat and a white owl waiting for them. Hell's whiskers. I've never seen anything like it." Basil Staghair limped up and threw Matthias a wobbly salute. "Squire Julian and Captain Snow. You can talk to them later on, young fella. Right now, you're needed over in the cloisters. It's the abbot. Better hurry." As fast as their tired limbs would allow them, Matthias, Constance, and Hugo went together. Abbot Mortimer lay in the cloister gardens, surrounded by his mice and woodland friends. Everyone was there, from Queen Warbeak and Logolog to Cornflower and Silent Sam, down to the humblest mouse. The poisoned barb on Clooney's tail had done its deadly work. The Father Abbot was dying. Respectfully, the ranks opened to allow Matthias and his companions through. Constance knelt to cradle her old friend's head, and Matthias gently clasped the wrinkled, careworn paw. The abbot smiled fondly at his young mouse. "Matthias, my son, I see you have restored the Sword of Martin to our abbey. Is your mission completed, then?" Matthias rested his forehead against his abbot's paw. "Yes, Father. Clooney the Scourge is dead. I have done my task." The abbot nodded slowly. "So have I, my son. So have I." "Father Abbot, you must live," said Constance in a gruff, choking voice. The abbot's old face broke into a weak smile. "My old friend, I am not like the seasons. I cannot go on forever. It has to finish sometime." The tears rolled down Matthias's cheeks. He could not stop them. The abbot patted his paw kindly. "Ah, Matthias. Matthias the brave one. Wipe away your tears, my son. Death is only part of life. Tell me, can you see the late rose?" Matthias dried his eyes on the abbot's wide sleeve. "Yes, Father. It is in full bloom now." "And are all the little roses as red as blood?" said the abbot. "They are, Father," Matthias answered. The abbot sighed. "It is as it was meant to be. Is Brother Alf nearby?" Brother Alf knelt before the abbot. "Ah, Brother Alf, my old and valued companion. When I am gone to my rest, you will take my place as abbot. You are a wise and compassionate mouse. I know you will look after my creatures for me." Abbot Mortimer closed his eyes for a moment before carrying on with his final instructions. "What a great pity that it took so much bloodshed to unite us all. Henceforth, the sparrows may come and go as they wish. They must share our food and use our abbey, not only the roof, but all of it. These good gorilla shrews also. No longer will they be as travelers roaming the woods. They will have a proper home here at Redwall, as long as they wish. And now, Matthias, my son, I must tell you my decision regarding you. It is my wish that you do not enter our order as a brother." A gasp of surprise arose from all those within hearing range. Matthias bowed his head. He was stunned by his Father Abbot's words. The abbot continued. "Oh, my son, your heart is far too brave. This abbey needs you, but not as a brother. Therefore, I name you Matthias, the warrior mouse of Redwall, champion of our order. From this day, you will defend this abbey and all of its creatures from evil and wrong. Your sword shall be known far and wide as Rat Death. Now, Cornflower, where is little Cornflower?" The young field mouse came. She stood by the abbot, waiting upon his word. "There you are, dear Cornflower." The abbot smiled. "A warrior needs a good wife. You are the beauty that will grace Redwall and rule the heart of our Matthias. The old gatehouse will be extended into a proper home. It belongs to you both. Guard our threshold wisely and well." There were no words to express the feelings of Matthias and Cornflower. They could feel the joy and pride singing from their hearts. The abbot looked up at Constance. "And you, my oldest friend, do me one last service. Lift my head a little, and I will tell you what my failing eyes can see before I leave you." Obediently, the badger raised the abbot's head. "Ah, yes, I see. The most beautiful summer morning of my life. The friends I know and love are all about me. Redwall, our home, is safe. The sun shines warmly upon us. Nature is ready to yield her bounty again in plenty this autumn. I have seen it all before, many times. And yet I never cease to wonder. Life is good, my friends. I leave it to you. Do not be sad, for mine is a peaceful rest." Thus did Mortimer, the father abbot of Redwall, die.